I had gone to bed and I had just turned the lights off, and this thing was all of a sudden hovering over me, and I knew right away it was malevolent.
And then she turned to me out of the blue and said, you know, there's a presence in your home that's disturbing your son. You have to tell them to go because it's extremely disturbing to him. That kind of, you know, gave me goosebumps.
My great-grandmother was very close friends with Mackenzie King, and she was a spiritualist. And they used to have seances. And so she would speak to her dead husband, and he would speak to his dead mother. It made me think that these kinds of things were possible and that they were real, and you know, the idea that you could feel dead people around you.
When you open the door to a ghost as a child, does it ever close? Or do early experiences set you up to have paranormal encounters for the rest of your life? Hello, I'm Lawrence Chow. Welcome to Ghostly Encounters. Today, we'll look at that early childhood connection. We'll meet two women who talk about relationships with the supernatural that began in childhood and continued throughout their lives. Both tell of encounters that seem to reveal a spiritual universe that's a lot like our day-to-day world. These include some experiences that are frightening and others that are merely unsettling or uncomfortable. Charlotte Disher grew up in a family environment of spiritualism and seances, of people saying they were communicating with the dead. With a genetic and environmental heritage like that, it was only to be expected that Charlotte would have a strong affinity for the supernatural.
I started having dreams when I was a child, dreams that came true. So it wasn't that I predicted, you know, big things, there were little things, but it started to scare me. And the last one that I remember having was when I was about 17. My horse was pregnant, and she was a thoroughbred. She'd been a racehorse. So she was very fine-boned and slight, and this was her first pregnancy. And the reason that we were breeding her is because she had broken her leg. It had healed, but I couldn't ride her anymore. I had a dream that she went into labor and that she had twins, and we didn't know that she was having twins. And she was a dark bay, and the first foal got stuck. It died when they were trying to pull it out, and then because the second one couldn't get out and couldn't breathe, obviously, it died. The next day, when I woke up, my parents told me that my horse had gone into labor and that she'd had twins and that they'd both died. But when they told me that, I mean, I was so upset. And I asked them, you know, what the foals were and stuff, and they said a dark bay and a gray. And my dream, and so I told them my dream. And my dream was exactly what happened. I was both upset by what had happened with my horse, but also I was terrified that I'd had this dream because it was so clear, and it was, you know, it had all the detail, and also I was scared because it involved death. You know, these creatures died, and I knew it ahead of time. How could I have predicted that? How did I know that happened in exactly that detail? How is that possible? I had no idea. Once there was a connection between the dream and reality and something happening, you stop wanting to tell people because you think that people aren't going to believe you. And as you get older, you become aware of that, and you become embarrassed, or you just don't want you don't want to look like an idiot. I started to realize, I think, at that point that there was something happening there. There was something real happening, and so I just made a decision. I just shut it off. So they went away, and so it was a long time before I had a visitation, as I call it.
Charlotte was troubled by her ability to predict the future in her dreams, and so for many years she just shut it off. But 20 years ago, when she was visiting friends and family in New York City, the part of her life she wanted to ignore reappeared in a far more terrifying form.
I was in a room on the top floor, which was kind of like, it wasn't the attic, but it was under the roof, and the building was old. It was built sometime in the 1800s. And I had gone to bed, and I had just turned the lights off, and this thing was hovering, all of a sudden hovering over me, and it was black, and I knew right away it was malevolent. I just felt complete malevolence and perhaps violence or something. I don't know. It was terrifying. I was terrified. Anyway, I turned on the light, and it was gone. It just, poof, was gone. And so I turned on all the lights, and I went into the bathroom. I looked everywhere. I opened closets. I looked under the bed. Then I went into the bathroom, and I turned on the light, and there was a trap door in the ceiling. And I thought, oh my God, what's up there? That must be the attic, and that's where it must have come from there. There was no face on it. It was nothing recognizable to me. It was otherworldly. It wasn't human. When I went to bed that night, I had no idea. I had no thought of seeing a ghost. I hadn't, I don't think I'd experienced anything like that. If I had for a very long time, I had no thought of it. I didn't go to bed with any thought of it. I didn't feel creeped out by the room or the building or anything, It was like a cozy room, and so when that happened, I was terrified. It's always made me feel that I should be careful about it. And I don't know if that's because I just, because I'm worried about what other people will think, or I'm worried about me getting caught up in it and where that might lead. So I guess part of me is maybe a bit skeptical too.
Despite her caution, despite her skepticism, Charlotte's link to the supernatural is so strong that it won't be denied. She tells of another ghostly encounter, but this time it's in the bedroom of her own home, and this time it's not an event remembered from years past.
About a month ago now, I think, I was asleep, and I don't know at what point I woke up. All of a sudden, there was this white figure over my bed, and it was pulling back the covers. So I just was, again, I just leapt out of my skin, and I was trying, it was that thing when you're just kind of half awake and half asleep, and I was trying to scream, and every time I tried, a little bit of noise would come out, and it'd get louder and louder, and as I did that, this creature would just move back towards the door, and I finally was able to scream full out loud, and it just went out the door. I didn't feel it was out to do anything to me. You know, I didn't feel like it was malevolent or violent or anything like that. But it just, because it woken me up in bed, I was terrified. So I got up again, turned on all the lights, went all through the house, you know, upstairs, downstairs, closets, you name it. And nothing was there, it was gone. The scientist in me would like